Welcome to Downpour.com's interview series. I'm Grover Gardner, and today I'm pleased to present an exclusive interview with award-winning and acclaimed author Richard Matheson. Matheson is also a film and television scriptwriter. His works include Nightmare at 20,000 Feet from the Twilight Zone, as well as episodes of Star Trek. Several of Matheson's novels are major motion pictures, including I Am Legend and What Dreams May Come. Conducting the interview is award-winning narrator Scott Brick.
Thanks for having us here today, Richard. It's an honor to be sitting in your living room.
You're very welcome.
When we last spoke, you mentioned that you have a tendency in your books to be the lead character.
Oh, sure.
When I was recording Somewhere in Time, it really blew me away that the beginning and the end of the book, the parts that take place in Los Angeles, were set here, and realizing, oh my gosh, I've actually sat in that living room. I'm curious, as you're walking around your home, do you ever look and think, oh, that's a scene where such and such a scene from What Dreams May Come took place, or this is where Richard convalesced, or is it just home to you, or do you think of it also in terms of
No, it's just home to me. I don't equate it with things I wrote.
The most powerful image, the visual image that comes to my mind from Somewhere in Time, it has to be the penny. Whenever I see people write about it online, that's the image they always invoke. But I think a really close second is the watch and the question of where it came from.
That was my mistake.
It was a mistake.
Oh, yeah, I suggested it, and as soon as I suggested it, I said, no, that's impossible.
Right.
And they were so in love with the whole idea that they kept it in anyway. They even had a T-shirt that said, "What watch?"
Right. I saw that in the book. The Making of Somewhere in Time book that
Yeah.
came out several years ago. I saw that certain cast members, it would say, ask me about the watch, and yours said, what watch?
Oh,
As I was recording the novel about 6 months ago, I had forgotten the scene where Elyse comes to visit Richard when she's an older woman giving him the watch. That was alluded to in the book, but we didn't see it. We actually got to see it in the film. When you were writing that scene in the screenplay, did you not put the watch in there right away? That was something that you later suggested to the producers after the script was already written?
seems to me I suggested it right away, and they fell in love with the idea. And being logical, I knew it didn't work,
Right.
but they did it anyway.
Well, it is such a classic time travel paradox. If she gave him the watch, how could he have given her the watch? Where did it originally come from? Did you point that out to them? Did they say, oh, we don't care, we just love it so much?
Oh, I pointed out all the illogic qualities to it.
Well, I love it. I think an experience is even greater when people who are viewing something or reading something can do some of the work themselves, when they can speculate on, for them, where did the watch come from? Do you prefer it that way? Were you happy to let them just speculate, or have you ever come to a conclusion saying, no, I know where the watch came from?
No, I'll let them have their own way.
My girlfriend is still convinced that Elyse had it first, and I say, okay, whatever you want. If that makes you happy, then she had it first.
Well, in the book, I think she gives it to him, doesn't she?
She does. After they've fallen in love in the past, she wants to give him a gift, and when he goes home to the present, he brings it with him. So, yeah, originally that is how it happened.
So there was no way the old lady could have it.
Right.
Too bad.
I don't know. I love them both, but I love the paradox of it, because time travel does in itself seem to be a paradox. So
Oh, yeah, when you examine time travel, it doesn't work.
yeah. Have you ever thought about going back to the idea of time travel in any of your other novels?
No, I get one idea at a time.
Right. And when you're done with it, you're done with it.
Yeah. I became fascinated with the Western
Sure.
for about 6 novels, and then I just lost all interest in it.
Right. I read the novel about 20 years ago, I guess, and the part that really got to me the most when I first read it was the foreword and then the afterword by Robert Collier, the main character's brother. The part that's presented as bookends, where he says, this is the manuscript that was found, and this is what Richard says happens to him. And reading that at the end, where he believes it was a hallucination, but he wants to hold out hope that it was real, I wept like a baby the very first time I read that. And every time I've read it subsequently, the same thing happened. It happened to me 6 months ago when I was recording the audiobook. I've never had this happen before, but Blackstone came back to me and they told me they needed me to re-record the last 2 pages because I was crying too hard, and they said they couldn't understand. And this is something I already knew 20, 30 years ago. I was already familiar with how it was going to end, but I had to re-record it. So I'm curious about the device of the bookends, the foreword and the afterword by Robert Collier. At what point in the creation of the book did you decide to use that to maybe give?
I think right from the start.
Right from the start?
Yeah.
Because I know that usually when you're able to provide some distance, some perspective on the story, it's a great literary tool. It really helps in the storytelling process. So I wasn't sure if it had come on at some point later and that you had added it in.
No, it was part of the original concept.
It's still my favorite. And for all the people who've only seen the film, I always tell them you have to read the book just for that afterword alone. That's just lovely.
Yeah, I was watching last night a Classic Art Showcase on PBS.
Mm-hmm.
They had this segment where Bernstein is conducting the last movement of Mahler's Second Symphony.
Which was the music
and
in the book.
that just washes me out.
Yeah. The changes that were made to the book in order to make it into a film, I know the book was set in the Hotel del Coronado, and then it was switched to the Grand Hotel, and the music changed from Mahler to Paganini. How did it feel making those changes?
Well, Jeannot Swark was perfectly willing to have Mahler in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decided that it was a little too hard to fit it in.
Okay. Too long a movement, perhaps? Or
for any particular moment, the music has to reflect that moment. And it was very heavy music.
Right. Well, I was assuming that because Richard Collier said it was his favorite piece of music, I was assuming it had to have been yours.
Oh, yeah, sure, Mahler is my favorite composer.
It still has that effect on you?
It hit me very unexpectedly last night.
Wow.
I was suddenly blubbering.
That's the lovely thing about music. It still has the capacity to do it to us.
Oh, it's great.
All this time.
It's great.
With all of the adaptations of your novels to film over the years, in terms of staying faithful to the source material, do you think Somewhere in Time is your most fully realized story that was told in film?
Probably, since I wrote the screenplay.
Right. That certainly would help. I read that the original idea for Somewhere in Time came when you saw a picture of the actress Maud Adams, and you pondered what would happen if someone were to fall in love with that picture.
Right.
I noticed when I read the book and when I watched the film again recently that Elyse McKenna is portrayed as she's performing The Little Minister, which is actually a role that Maud Adams performed herself. Was that a nod to her that you put in the original story?
Well, at one point I was going to call the book The Man Who Loved Maud Adams.
Is that right?
But then I realized I'm too specific about details, and Maud Adams never did the things
right
that Elyse McKenna did. So
that you would have needed her to do for the book.
Yeah.
When did you decide to name it Bid Time Return? Is that perhaps when you found the quotation, the Shakespeare quote that you used to open the book?
It was suggested to me by the editor. I was calling it And Love Most Sweet, which is a ridiculous title.
But that was the title of a song that was referred to in the book, if I recall.
Yeah, it was...
Amy Semple McPherson?
No, Mary Vickeretti.
Oh, that's what it was. That's right.
And the editor suggested Bid Time Return, which I liked a lot better.
It's lovely. Yeah, it's very evocative. That quote, the Shakespeare quote, is wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm curious if, given how much Maud Adams had to do with the creation of the story, did you ever frame that photo that you saw of her, keep as a memento?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that right?
I still have it out in my room in the garage.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's terrific.
Thank you for joining us for this exclusive interview of legendary and acclaimed author Richard Matheson by Scott Brick. You can find other Richard Matheson titles, as well as Blackstone Audio's complete selection of titles, at downpour.com.